there are not enough women in business generally. Let's say that right off the bat. And if you go back 25 years, it was even more so the case. And as well, I think a lot of women who are in business, they place limits on themselves because of the fact that their lifestyle, the fact that they're the primary caregiver for their kids, those kinds of things may limit them in some ways from pouring themselves into their companies and having great ambitions. So they end up managing sometimes small businesses that are not focused on significant growth. So what was different from you, and where did that drive come from?
I'd say a couple things. You've mentioned a couple things that I think are really important. One of them is that women in particular, women of any generation, my generation or my daughter's generation or my granddaughter's generation, the responsibility of childcare, senior care, and home care generally continues to fall on the female of the household. Now that's evolving and it's changing, but for the most part, it still remains true today. And so I think what happened is not that women, didn't feel that they wanted to have big aspirations, or not that they didn't, but somebody had to take that responsibility, and women are the nurturers and the caregivers and the caretakers of life generally. And so it became very difficult for women to break out of that. And we were seen as that, in that role only, instead of seen as, excuse me, custodians. Sorry, I'm gonna have a glass of water. Instead of being seen as custodians of business and applying those skill sets, we were seen as custodians of the household. And so I think that is evolving significantly, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't very difficult. And for me, I was a single mom. I was raised to believe that anything was possible if I put my mind to it, if I worked hard, that, like it was all about work ethic. It was all about, putting your effort behind something would result in something. And I never really thought about myself as, a woman in business. I just thought about myself as a person in business. And yes, I hit all those barriers. Like banks wouldn't lend to me, and people would dismiss me. And, like you could see it in, whether it was in a boardroom or wherever. And I was just determined, Mark. I don't know where I got it from. I don't know why I have it, but I'm very determined. Once I decide I want to go and do something, I don't understand why I can't. And gender, of all things that should stop me, is the last thing that should stop me. So, like I've never believed that simply because I was a woman, I couldn't. I still don't believe that, even though I can tell you I'm more aware of the biases today than I ever have been. And but having said that, I can't let that stop me. Or how do you create a pathway for the next generation of females behind me? So, we have a lot of biases to overcome. We have a lot of things that we have to think about as women when we're building our businesses. But what we shouldn't do is let gender be something that stops us, ever.